Well, okay. Hey everybody, sorry about that. If anybody's still there, just let me know. So I mean, this is 8 out of 10 times. I don't know. Just when you think everything is going to be great. Um, so I had this little menu bar tool that shows me the up and down load speed, and it was just at like 0 or 1 kilobyte per second. And then I did a speed test, and that was fine. So I thought everything was sunk. So sorry about that. But we're back now. Oh boy, it's so funny. Let's see. Let me text a couple people and see. Let's see. All right. So, all right. Yes. Okay. So luckily friends are texting me and telling me what's up. Um, it sounds like maybe there wasn't a problem and then I just cut out. I don't know, but it really looked like it. Anyways, sorry about that. We're live on the air, on the airways. Okay. So I guess where I was going is just an exploration and seeing if anybody else has any ideas, to share about like the idea that the central experience of creativity is mystical, opening our souls to what must be made. We meet our maker. Okay. All right. So continuing on this, the idea of God, a creator, etc. As artists, we experience the fact that God is in the details. Making our art, we make artful lives. Making our art, we meet firsthand the hand of our creator. Okay, this is interesting. And then so let's see. Gotta go. There we go. Now you should see that the page turned. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna have to do something else too because I can see that I don't think I'm gonna last the full to the hour on my laptop plugged in, not plugged in. Anyways, okay. So I think this is good because I know just me personally, this is good for me. I won't go into it too deeply, but like the idea of like the great creator, it's just not like kind of my experience of the world. So, she talks about how, she brings this up and this is a little paraphrase of a common interaction she has talking to people about this idea. I'm going to read what I have highlighted here. The great creator, that sounds like some Native American god. That sounds too Christian, too New Age, too stupid, too simple-minded, too threatening. And she says, I know. Think of it as an exercise in open-mindedness. Or if it does to you, think of, one way to go through this, thinking of a creator, great creator, is an exercise in open-mindedness. Just think, okay, great creator, whatever that is. Whatever it is to us. Multitude of people watching, multitude of ideas of what that is. It's interesting. Allow yourself to experiment with the idea that there might be a great creator and you might get some kind of use from it in freeing your own creativity. Because the artist's way is in essence a spiritual path initiated and practiced through creativity. This book uses the word God. Now I have in red the pencil tool, which I love on this iPad. This may be volatile for some of you, conjuring old, unworkable, unpleasant, or simple, unbelievable ideas about God as you were raised to understand Him. And we'll talk more about what we were raised to believe about ourselves or the world. Remind yourself that to succeed in this course, no God concept is necessary. In fact, many of our commonly held God concepts get in the way. Do not allow semantics to become a block. And then she gives us a non-theistic sort of way, I suppose. Oh, you can't see the page turn. That's going to be annoying. You know what? Give me a second. I'm going to open books here and see if I can just share that screen instead. That'll be better. Did it sync my notes? It did. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Okay, 1 second. Good orderly direction. Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm going to swap this for books. Are we? Maybe we're not. Oh, we're not, because I don't see it. That's okay. All right. Good orderly direction. So I think that's what I'm going to do. That seemed to be the path of least resistance for me for this week. So whenever I read about the higher creator or God, I'm going to try to use this idea of good orderly direction or flow. And she says, God is useful shorthand for many of us, but so is goddess, mind, universe, source, and higher power. By the simple scientific approach of experimentation and observation, which I think that is very much the creative approach for us. I certainly adhere to that as a musician. We experiment and we observe, and then we make an assessment afterwards. Like, do I like that? Did that feel good? Is that pleasurable to me? Is that artistically expressive? A workable connection with the flow of good orderly direction can be established. Okay, cool. So that's doing God. Then I put no musicians just because she says, I was starting to observe this. I've worked with artists, so she lists a bunch of mediums, but not music. Potters, photographers, poets, screenwriters, dancers, novelists, actors, directors, but no musicians. I don't know, just kind of interesting. And then at the back, she says, not all students become full-time artists, so don't feel like, if you're not doing that you're not part of this journey with us. I think most people are not full-time artists. I'm, I guess, part-time performing musician and part-time music educator. And that's not full-time artist, I would say. But maybe I do my education like it artistically. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, okay, so, oh yeah, that's right, okay. So she says, I've come to believe that creativity is our true nature, that blocks are an unnatural thorning. So now she's talking about blocks and blockages. And like that's what we're going to be doing, is like clearing our pathways and stuff. And she talks about alcoholism, which is very vulnerable of her to share, and how that she associated with her writing process with getting drunk, and then she talks about creating in spasms, and then how she kind of saw that once she pursued sobriety. And she's just, I think that what I take from that is that, that approach to using alcohol, getting drunk, and then writing, there were blocks involved in that. This is kind of her point, or what I'm taking from there. And so I'm just kind of skipping now to the next section. Spiritual electricity, the basic principles. So this is really cool. So she's got what we were talking about here is induced invited spiritual experience. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We are, me this week, you this week, all of us, anyone that started this already, we're inducing and inviting a spiritual experience. How cool. I mean, as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my God, the live stream is going to sound like a cult or something. But it's language to describe the creative process, right? So I don't know, what do we prefer? Something like, I don't know, not that, something very logical. All right, or mechanical. And then the next highlight I have is, she says, I often sense the presence of something transcendent, a spiritual electricity, if you will. And I have come to rely on it in transcending my own limitations. So spiritual electricity, a transcendent, a spiritual electricity. So what is that for us? I feel like that's a pretty important thing to define. So I put, let's define this for ourselves. So anybody out there have any ideas of what is your idea of your transcendent spiritual electricity? Do you feel it? Is that, when you've touched the creative process, assuming that what we're trying to do, anyone who's watching and interested in this and participating especially, what we're trying to do is feel more of this creative energy. How would you describe it? And this gets back to the thing that I was talking about right when I realized that the upload speed was abysmal, or so it seemed. Which is like, how does it manifest? Is it this mystical kind of thing? Is it a transcendent experience? I don't know. I don't know that language necessarily is, as like I said earlier, is the way that I would describe it. But it is certainly something the best. It's the best. It's amongst the things that are the best things of life. The things to pursue, the things that create so much pleasure and connection and whatever that I just want more and more of. And then she talks about Christ specifically. who is a spiritual leader or the name of a god for many people. So she's talking about the idea of mystical union. So wherever two or more are gathered, there I am in your midst. And she feels the God of creativity seems to feel the same way. So I'll read these little boxes that I have, and this is when I started just going kind of wild with the different colors. So the heart of creativity is an experience of the mystical union. Okay, that seems like a very the heart of creativity is an experience of the mystical union. Okay, so once again, we're having a mystical experience. This is a mystical experience. So it's not like an intellectual idea of what is a mystical experience. We're actually experiencing it. And I think that is like worth me repeating and gesturing wildly in this frame here, that is what we're doing. So let's remember that there are writing exercises. There's like some, we're going to have to be disciplined about doing the morning pages, even if we don't feel like it, and doing these assignments and all this sort of thing. And our sensor is going to be going off in our heads. But the thing we're supposed to be doing is having an experience of what she calls mystical, which again is like, I think we have to define that. What is that for all of us? And I need to come up with a solution here. So give me a second, because I only have this one cable, USB-C cable, and I need to plug the computer in charging again. So pardon me for a second. We'll probably be going past the hour, but that's okay for this first one. So let me add a source, see if I can do this way. Window capture, add a source, a new source, books. I do my reading these days on my iPad or my iPhone with Apple Books. Okay. All right. So, oh, that's not going to work, is it? Okay. So I have to go to actually the preview then. Hang on. Let me change that. Okay. That's why. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so this is what we're going to do instead. And let me plug this into charge. Okay. And then I'll get us to where we were. Creativity. It's a lot of stuff. These first chapters are very, I think they're very powerful, really. And it's a lot. It's too much to be actionable. It's like this kind of fire hydrant of huge ideas. Let me hide the sidebar and zoom in a little bit more here. So again, I'm going to repeat, we are having a mystical experience, and that's mostly for me to be reminded of as well. And because I think it's important, I'm sharing it. So the Christian God, and then, okay, mystical union, right? She started out with a transaction, right? Creativity is a transaction. And now we have union. And so both to transact requires sort of at least two things. To have a union requires more than one thing. So this idea that it's like us and something else, that is creativity. So I'll read the green box here. Can we all see it? Yeah. The heart of creativity is an experience of the mystical union. Okay. So it's about mystical union and experiencing it. And then the heart of the mystical union is an experience of creativity. Okay. So if we are to experience union, that by its very nature is creative. I know, like, one of the things my therapist has said is that, for as far as anxiety, just like ways to, if I'm feeling a lot of anxiety, generalized anxiety or otherwise, to try to become present is a wonderful solution, because anxiety is about the unknown and fearful unknown, and the present is known, and we just cannot know what's in the future. It's impossible to know, so the brain can go crazy and to not helpful places. But where this ties in, I think, is that she's mentioned, asking questions, being creative, being in a curious mindset. She didn't say creative. She said curious. But I think that that's very much part of this idea of that the idea of mystical union, is to be curious. Okay, so then she says, those who speak in spiritual terms routinely refer to God as the creator, right? So spiritual people, but seldom see creators as the literal term for artists. I got to read the preview. And then she says, I am suggesting you take the term creator quite literally, right? So this kind of, I guess, this is philosophical, emotional, metaphysical, religious ideas here. So these are just how they're bouncing off of me in this moment. I'm open to anything anybody wants to put in the chat, or not. But okay, so this just a life, like love, compassion, acceptance. Those feel like sort of life energies to me, and creativity, in the way that it manifests. The impulse of us, anybody that's watching out there. She says, you are seeking to forge a creative alliance, artist to artist, with the great creator. Okay, we're forging creative alliance. Okay, so union, and accepting this concept can greatly expand your creative possibilities. Okay, all right, so it's not just us. We're not going this alone. We're going this with our concept of creator, whether that's Christ or what is it? What was the God thing? Oh boy. Sorry, there's a lot of info here. Good orderly direction, or whatever it is for us. Okay, scrolling. Okay. All right, and then we're gonna go to let's see. I'm in recitation mode. Here I go. Bertie Wooster says, if you see God as the creator of this beautiful world, it makes sense to me that then when we create, it's a very special experience. Yeah, that's amazing. Cool, Bertie. Profound statement. And I guess I don't. Let's see. Where's the comments? What did I do with the comments? Where are they? Hang on a second. Let me get the comments going on, because those are fun. Where did they go? Comments are somehow. Oh, chat box. Okay. Bring it up. On top of books. That's the problem. Still nothing in it. Okay. I think the chat box is busted. Alrighty. Yeah. Experience. And Bertie Wooster said experience as well. Okay, so then she talks about, this is sort of like qualifying objections, I feel like. That's the term when you speak to doubts that people might have in the process of making a sale, when you're selling them on anything. But it's expensive, but do I need it? But will it work for but what about this? And so I feel like that's what she's writing now. Like every good self-help book, is qualifying your objections and stuff, along with giving you this philosophy and these things to do. So she talks about the idea of synchronicity. We change and the universe furthers and expands that change. So as we're becoming happier, we're meeting happier people or whatever. She says, I have an irreverent shorthand for this that I keep taped to my writing desk. It says, leap and the net will appear. Later, she'll tell us not to leap in this first week. But those are unrelated ideas. Okay, so then the blue box, it does not matter which way you think of it. Creativity leading to spirituality or spirituality leading to creativity. Okay. So she's really just telling us spiritual experience. Carl Jung, and that she doesn't make a distinction between the two. Creativity and spiritual experience are the same to her, and offers us that. Basic principles. Let's read these. She says, read them once a day. So I have written an assignment up here. So that's an assignment for us, is to read these once a day. Maybe you want to print them out. I'm going to go ahead and print them out later, and put them on my wall and try to read them once a day, as she suggests. So here they are. Creativity is the natural order of life. Life is life is energy, pure creative energy. All right. And we were talking about that earlier, just a moment ago. There is an underlying indwelling creative force infusing all of life, including ourselves. Okay. So a creative force infusing all of life. Okay. and creativity is the natural order of things is one. Then when we open ourselves to our creativity, we open ourselves to the Creator's creativity within us. Okay, so now it's that union with us and, I don't know, I'm going to say the divine, the bigger, the deeper, the something, the cosmic. I don't know, in the ketamine session, there's certainly like larger feelings, these big, larger feelings, which are not necessarily like a hierarchy of, not necessarily a hierarchy, but it's very much of the self. So I think that's related to number 4. We are ourselves creations. Okay, we were created by something. And we, in turn, are meant to continue that creativity. Good, okay. So I take 4 as to fortify us, right? To say, don't worry about it. Like, you're part of this chain. You're a link in the chain, and that's good. That's a good thing. You don't have to struggle against this thing. This is the way it should be. You're just doing what you should. Number 5, creativity is God's gift to us. Using our creativity is our gift back to God. Okay. Creativity is God's gift to us, and using the creativity is the way that we give it back. 6, the refusal to be creative is self-will and is counter to our true nature. Okay. I don't really want to touch that. That's like a whole philosophical dialectic. I suppose you could go into that, but make of that what you will, pun intended. Number 7, when we open ourselves to exploring our creativity, we open ourselves to God, good orderly direction. Okay. So union with a spiritual union, right? Okay. God is spirituality. Spirituality is creativity. I don't know. We're just being ourselves more when we do it, right? I'm summing up basic principles. Number 8, as we open our creative channel to the Creator, many gentle but powerful changes are to be expected. Okay, cool. Number 9, I need to keep going. I don't want to go too far over the hour. We'll do it. Number 9, it is safe to open ourselves up to greater and greater creativity. Hey, and we're going to get into that. Recovering a sense of safety is the first chapter here. So it is safe to be creative and to open ourselves up. Okay, to be vulnerable. Number 10, our creative dreams and yearnings come from a divine source. As we move toward our dreams, we move toward our divinity. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So different statements of the same. Now, some words about how to use this book. And I thought that this is super cool. I suggest everybody read this. If you haven't, if you jumped right into chapter 1, read this part. So I said, let's discuss interpretations of this. So she says, there are a number of ways to use this book. Most of all, I invite you to use it creatively. What does that mean? Anybody out there, Bertie Wooster, Anne, Tom's Accordion, Driftless Dawn, anybody that's watching, what does that mean? Let's see. Let me drag the window over a little bit. There we go. Okay. I'm not sure what it means. I guess we could say, spiritual communion, spiritual union, a good orderly direction, right? Having a spiritual experience, I suppose. It's like kind of this looping definition. So if we use that, then we say, well, am I having a spiritual experience when I'm reading this book or doing this book, using this book, right? And I don't know, I found myself, for me, just kind of being in a particular zone, not trying to be like do a thorough breakdown of the things that I read, but more just try to like bounce off them, have things to say to myself and to you guys, see what you all think about it. And I found one way creative is just picking different colors and tips, pen tips on the iPad to use was a good way of approaching the thoughts, the intellectual thoughts, right? Because that's what's going on here. Essentially, we have like a very intellectual experience. Tom says, use it as it suits you best. There is not just one way. I agree. Okay, so then the next thing, let's see, read all of this. Read this all loud or something like that. Okay, so I wanted to read this. For example, if you're going to work, so here she suggests setting a weekly schedule. So this is important for us too because we're doing this. So she says, if you're going to work a Sunday to Sunday week, then, but we're doing Tuesday to Tuesday or Tuesday to Monday. So, but she says, begin by reading the chapter of the chapter of the week on Sunday night. After you read the chapter, speed right through the exercises. Okay, so read it and then do speed right through the exercises is an example, which I think I'm going to try because why not? She's suggesting it. She wrote the thing and taught countless people. So read the chapter, speed right through the exercises. The exercises in each week are critical. So are the morning pages and the artist date, which we'll talk about in a moment. Let's see. You probably won't have time to complete all of the other tasks in any given week. Try to do about half and know that the rest are there for use when you're able to get back to them. That's cool. Okay, now she says, in choosing which half of the tasks to do, right? So we're going to do this. We're going to plan our week. We're going to read it, and then we're going to speed right through the exercises. And then the other tasks we're going to choose half of. So then in those half, she says, of those, pick half that you strongly appeal to you and half that you strongly resist. And that's really cool. And she says, in choosing what we often resist is what we most often need. And then she says, make a time commitment of about 7 to 10 hours. So it's about an hour a day. So we're going to try to spend about an hour a day. This whole week is dedicated still to week 1. So continue to do that stuff. Why don't you go ahead and get on this schedule with me? And what we'll do, like I said at the beginning, we will do on Monday. Why don't you share anything that you want, like your check-in on the forums. You could do also all throughout the week. So any time that you want to share something, throw it up there. But maybe do your kind of review check-in thing on Monday, and then read the next chapter, which is totally readable, and then speed right through those exercises. And then on Tuesday, I'll talk about it, and then we'll go forward on the next chapter together. So remember that the artist's way is a spiral path. You will circle through some of the issues over and over. Okay, great. All right, now here I have a little bit of resistance. So this is what to expect. Many of us wish that we were more creative. Many of us sense that we are more creative but unable to effectively tap that creativity. I think that's absolutely why you're interested in doing this book with me. Our dreams elude us. Our lives feel somehow flat. Often we have great ideas, wonderful dreams, but are unable to actualize them for ourselves. Sometimes we have specific creative longing we would love to be able to fulfill. Learning to play the piano, for example, painting, taking an acting class, or writing. Sometimes our goal is more diffuse. Okay, this is good for us to know. Because it's like, well, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do or what I'm going to get out of this. Although having started it last year, I kind of have an idea of what happened then, and it was cool. So I don't know. But anyways, she said, sometimes our goal is more diffuse. We'll hunger for what might be called living an expanded sense of creativity in our business lives, or in sharing with our children, in sharing with our spouse, or with our friends. Okay, so these are kind of more ways that I'm doing rather than an outcome. Okay, and then she says, I see a certain amount of defiance and giddiness in the first weeks, the entry stage. So then she says a common pattern she sees in the people that do this. Defiance and giddiness in the first few weeks. The entry stage is followed closely by explosive anger in the course's midsection. The anger is followed by grief and alternating waves of resistance and hope. How interesting is that? So really, I wonder, this will be really cool. We have 12 weeks here. So between week, 1 to 4 is the beginning, 5 to 8 is the middle, and 9 to 12 is the end. So we can look for patterns there if we remember, if anybody remembers. Just go into the chat. Anne says, this is talking about like how to use the book creatively. Anne says, I believe that that's what it means. There's not just one way. One size doesn't fit all. Now, Bertie Worcester says, this sounds hardcore, LOL. I'm wondering what my explosive anger is going to look like. I know, man. It's like, it's pretty intense. Okay. So, the choppy growth. Anyway, so she just describes, she gives us an idea of what to expect. Let's see. I don't have anything highlighted here. Okay. Now, these things. So these are the basic tools. So these are the really important things that we're going to be doing every week. And I'm not going to cover all this, but she describes, this is good to know too, because we're going to be doing these things. So she really qualifies our objections here to bring us into this process. So the morning pages. So the morning pages are 3 pages of longhand writing, strictly stream of consciousness. So you just go, and we're supposed to do that the first thing every morning. So the first thing, right when you wake up, or as soon as you can get to it, go ahead and write 3 pages nonstop. And I'm going to do it on my iPad. You guys can do it however you want. And if you don't get to it first thing in the morning, get to it as soon as you can. And I don't think she says this, but what I'm going to try to do is be consistent, which is not easy for me. But I'm going to try to do it around the same time every day. Oh, that's weird. I don't know why. I don't know why it just defaulted back to that page. It's bizarre. Okay, where are we? I went way too far. That's what happened. Hey, Tom Klein. Great to see you. Okie doke. So where was I here? All right. We're getting there. Still a lot. Okay. It's a chapter. There's my signature. Oh man, there's still a lot to talk about. My gosh, guys. Okay. So the morning pages, that's it. I got to speed things up, so I can't go quite as in depth. Read this chapter on the morning pages, I would suggest. Make sure that you understand what they are. We're not supposed to limit ourselves or censor ourselves. It's supposed to be stream of consciousness. Just go and write. Here's the thing she says in the red. Although occasionally colorful, morning pages are actually often negative, frequently fragmented, often self-pitying, repetitive, styled or babyish, angry or bland, even silly sounding. And she says that's good. Just get it out. And she talks about why are we doing it? Oh, she starts talking about the censor then. She goes in about the censor. I'm not going to read all that. I'll read the beginning of it. The morning pages are the primary tool of creative recovery. That's important to note because as she told us before, this book was originally titled about creative recovery. That's really what this is about. She chose the title The Artist's Way instead. So this is the primary tool. So we got to do it every single day. 3 pages nonstop. You can do it in a notebook. I'm going to do it on my iPad. You can do it on paper. And we're not supposed to read them. So she talks about the censor. So as blocked artists, she uses that term blocked. The energy is blocked. The creativity is blocked, stopped by something. It wants to go, wants to move and come out, but it's blocked. We tend to criticize ourselves mercilessly. Even if we look like functioning artists to the world, we feel we never do enough and what we do isn't right. We are victims of our own internalized perfectionist, a nasty internal and eternal critic, the censor. So this is a fun idea. The censor is like our Mara. It's like the negative voice inside of us. It lives in our left brain. I'm just kind of paraphrasing or moving quicker through here. I'm not going to read everything. Make this a rule. Always remember that your censor's negative opinions are not the truth. Okay, this takes practice. So she says the morning pages are non-negotiable. Never skip or skimp on them. Your mood doesn't matter. Just do it. And then answering the question of why do we do the morning pages? And she says to get to the other side. So it pulls us, the other side of our fear, the other side of our negativity, the other side of our mood. They get us beyond our censor. So you don't let the censor inhibit what you're writing. You just go. And it's just a time and a process to just let it go. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have, remember, this creative experience, this spiritual experience. So we are experiencing uninhibited releasing, creation, and no censor at all. So it could be gibberish, could be angry. She said a right brain, the logic brain is our censor, our second and third and fourth thoughts. The artist brain is our creative holistic brain. It thinks in patterns and shadings. These are, I'm sure, things we've all heard of before. I'm supposed to read this out loud, I said. The censor is part of our leftover survival brain. It was the part in charge of deciding whether it was safe for us to leave the forest and go out into the meadow. Our censor scans our creative meadow for any dangerous beasties. Any original thought can look pretty dangerous to our censor. Any original thought. Okay. The only sentences, paintings, sculptures, photographs the censor likes are the ones that it has seen many times before. Safe sentences, safe paintings, not exploratory blurts, squiggles, or jottings. Listen to your sensor, and it will tell you that everything original is wrong, delusional, or rotten. It's not the truth, remember. So it's gonna talk to you, and then she talks. Skip past this stuff. Okay, now the artist date is the other important tool that we're gonna do every week. This is something that I very rarely did when I did it before, and that's gonna change. I'm definitely gonna take myself on artist dates. In fact, I had a student yesterday, and he had already started chapter 1, and he told me about his artist date, which is very cool. So, what is an artist date? It's where you take yourself out and you do something that nurtures your artist. You have to do it all alone. You can't bring a date. You can't bring your partner, a friend, another artist. You can't do it. It's got to be all alone, just you and your artist self. And it is, again, like this idea of exchange or union. That's like, she describes this in this sort of duality. That's, even though it's just us, there's two things happening here. Us and then the creative thing. So our creative self, which she starts talking about like a child later. So what exactly is an artist date? An artist date is a block of time, perhaps 2 hours a week, especially set aside and committed to nurturing your creative consciousness, your inner artist in its most primary form. The artist date is an excursion, a play date that you pre-plan and defend against all interlopers. You do not take anyone on this artist date but you and your inner artist, aka your creative child. That means no lovers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I said that already. Okay, so Richard says, even when I didn't know about the book in the morning pages, I was always in a more creative space when I was doing the daybooks journaling, same as when I started this book back in 2021. Very cool. Yeah, and you've always written. I mean, I don't know how much you write anymore, but you used to write all the dang time, tons and tons of journaling and stuff, which is cool. That's been the major self-help thing that I've done since I started my sort of emotional therapy journey this past year in August, I guess. It's journaling like every day, and it's so helpful. I have a couple other tools that I do that are cool, but that's the major one, and I think it's very similar to this morning pages artist way. Okay, so then she she uses like the metaphor as our let's see, what a metaphor of quality time. So what she's describing, like what is a good artist date? What's a definition of a good artist date? And she said you could think of it like you're a parent and you have a child. Like it's not important that you take your child to like Disneyland, or you take your child, you get your child a very expensive gift or something. It's like the experience could be really simple, but are you connecting well with your child? Like, does the child feel acknowledged? Are you, learning things about each other, having good, deep, connected, present experience? That's the most important thing. So that's for us to consider in what our artist date is. For me, I'm interested in what the musicians, of which I think the majority of people watching are musicians, what kind of artist date you guys have been thinking of. To me, it seems like, going to see performances seems like something that I should do more of. It is usually inspiring. It's good for me. Bertie Wooster says, I hope my inner artist likes Denny's. You'll know if you ask him. And Anne says, the artist date is going to be the hardest thing for me to do. What if, I'm just thinking of limitations of being able to leave the house or whatever. And I'm not saying that this is Anne's thing, but I'm just thinking of when that could be it's oh man, I didn't do my artist date yet, and I'd like to see a concert, but there's nothing good where I live, or it's too far away, or this, that, the other thing. What about just putting headphones on, taking the laptop to a different room in the house that we don't do work or cook or clean or anything like that in, and just put on a concert on the computer or the phone or whatever, and just say, I'm listening to this for 40 minutes. I'm watching this YouTube concert, That's an idea of an artist date. I don't know. And I think that as an artist, I love seeing visual art. I love going to art museums. I love theater. And I don't know. A lot of performance art is very inspiring to me. Dance is very inspiring. And so to me, I think just any kind of performing arts, performing arts presentations or exhibitions of visual art would be great. I wonder, just to think creatively, right? It's just essentially, how do we commune with our artist self? Do I take a walk in, well, I won't be in the woods next week. I'll be back in the desert. But do I take a walk in the desert, in the hills, which that's kind of a lot of what's out there, or maybe the boulders of Joshua Tree or wherever. And I just try to be with my artist self. And what does my creative artist self see here or feel here? I'm not sure. But anyway, Tom Accordion says Midwest Gypsy Swing Fest, which is a concert that I'm going to be playing at, and I'll see Tom at. Okay, so she says, above all, learn to listen to what your artist child has to say on and about these joint expeditions. So we need to listen. And that's the idea of like, it's got to be quality time. And how do you know if it's quality time? Well, do you feel like it's quality time? And then your artist self, this union, right? This externalized thing, good orderly direction, whatever that is that feeling like it's good quality time, which is just a beautiful, very present thing. Okay. What is this? Artist duo filling the well. Oh yeah. So then she talks about filling the well, stocking the pond, and how important like nourishing ourselves is. And I think the artist date is a type of that. And I wrote this live stream is often filling the well. That's what I'm doing here. It's 2 hours for me to just listen to YouTube music that I like, watch accordionist, think about it, stay very focused and present, share it with you guys, which fills my well too. Okay. And she says, in filling the well, follow your sense of the mysterious, not your sense of what you should know more about. Yes. If you feel like you should do it, this is always like a confluence of what to work on with people too. We have to find the intersection of what feels urgent and what it feels like beautiful and exciting. Urgency and excitement is, if we feel like we should, like I really should learn my major scales in 12 keys, but we don't feel excited to do it, and we don't feel a sense of urgency, we don't feel both of those things, we're not going to make any progress on it. So it's a waste of time. Just to be practical about musicians, the work of a musician. That goes with repertoire or anything, exercises, learning tunes, whatever it is. We have to stay with what feels mysterious and exciting. Okay, so let's go on. And then there's a little contract, and you can see that I signed my name 4 times there, or printed and signed. Now you know what my signature looks like. Okay, that's the creativity contract. I hope everybody did that. And then, okay, now finally on to chapter 1, which is not nearly as long as everything else we covered before. So recovering a sense of safety. So this is about the overall vibe of this. Feel free to chime in, anybody else that read the thing and has other observations. But to me, it seems like it's about cultivating positive self-talk is what I'm going to say. And also believing in ourselves as an artist, like moving from this, she calls it a shadow artist, is somebody who feels like they should be doing artwork but isn't, and is getting close to artwork but not actually satisfying or fulfilling that need in themselves. And so it's about that. And then I think this one is not about censors. So yeah, that's another chapter. But so that's what this is about. So she talks about, let's see, the first thing here is one of our chief needs as creative beings is support. And then she talks about how as young artists, we are often discouraged in our paths for creativity, whatever that creativity is. The people who are supposed to support us and are caring about us are not supporting us in the realms of believing in ourselves, pursuing art as a creative direction here. That's a very common experience. So don't feel alone, that you should feel, affirmed in that. It's very common. So I'm going to read this box about the shadow artists. Too intimidated to become artists themselves, very often too low in self-worth to even recognize that they have an artistic dream. These people become shadow artists instead. And I don't think all shadow artists have the qualities that she describes, but she's being, pretty over the top and strong in her description of them. Artists themselves, but ignorant of their true identity. Shadow artists are to be found shadowing declared artists, unable to recognize that they themselves may possess the creativity they so admire. They often date or marry people who actively pursue the art career they themselves secretly long for. Okay. So immediately I have to think of my own insecurities and my dad telling me he attributed it to Woody Allen, the third line of it, which is like, it's an older than he, but those who cannot do, teach. And then the Woody Allen thing is those who cannot teach PE. But those who cannot do teach, and here I am considering myself a teacher, and a lot of my time and energy goes to that. Is that being a shadow artist? I don't think so, but I think there is certainly a shadow artist part of me. Like we contain volumes and multitudes, right? So there's all sorts of things. I'm just kind of speaking off the cuff and vulnerably here. Artists love other artists. Shadow artists are gravitating to their rightful tribe, but cannot yet claim their birthright. Okay. So she talks about how shadow artists like to be close to art, but they're not doing art. So she describes a few scenarios of where people have careers in the arts or with artists, but they're not actually making the art that they really want to themselves. I'm going to read the yellow here. And of course, the fledgling artist does not know. So she's saying, she's affirming our experiences all as young artists ourselves, or when we were younger artists, that like we didn't receive maybe the support that we should have. And now is the time that we're going to give it to ourselves with positive affirmations and other things, examinations, and just believing in ourselves. So, and of course, the fledgling artist does not know. There is just this dream, this feeling, this urge, this desire. There is seldom any real proof that we are an artist, right? How do you know? But the dream lives on. And I realized that I didn't highlight the first thing, which is important, which is the idea of how do you know you're an artist? So that's, if you're a young person to your parents, you may say, I'm an artist. You don't understand. And whether it's literally our parents in the past, or it's the parental idea, the censor in our head that's saying, how do you know that you're an artist? I think I'm an artist. I feel like I'm an artist. Well, how do you prove it? You can't prove it, so therefore do something else. Continue to deny yourself. Now, negative self-talk, is what I have listed in the blue there. So she describes negative self-talk. And so this is really important that we practice positive self-talk. And that's kind of like one of the vibes for this week that I said earlier. In order to move from the realm of shadows into the light of creativity, shadow artists must learn to take themselves seriously. With gentle, deliberate effort, they must nurture their artist child, okay? We have that union with the divine, the bigger, the good orderly direction, the God, whatever our God is. And also now we're personifying it as a child that we are to take good care of, to love, because it's us as a child. So a core component of therapy. Okay. So I said we must take ourselves seriously, right? Creativity is play, but for shadow artists, learning to allow themselves to play is hard work. With gentle, deliberate effort, they must nurture their artistic child. We must learn to take ourselves seriously. Okay, so we have to believe in ourselves. Create positive self-talk is the vibe of this chapter. Let's see. What did I order of? Oh, yeah. Okay, so anyways. So here's something else I think about as an educator and sharing it with people who take lessons from me. I even think, I struggle with this idea of like, oh, so-and-so is a student of mine. There's an interesting sort of hierarchical situation there that doesn't accurately describe, how I feel about our relationship. I share something, I help, I guide, I coach a little bit in a certain avenue, but in every other respect, it's an exchange of so much, Anyways, this is kind of interesting. So I just said, how examining the hierarchical. So we must take ourselves seriously. So I need to take you guys all seriously. So anybody that's out there that wants to share, there is a hierarchy, right? Like, do I take you seriously as an artist? Yes, I do. All of you, everybody in the chat, me, I hope you take me seriously too. Let's all offer that up as a positive exercise as well. Believe that I believe in you. I'm going to believe that you believe in me, which I'm not sure is part of the thing, is like soliciting that. I think it's actually much more about us believing in ourselves. But I think just because we're doing this as a group exercise, which she mentions in the back of this book, and I'm going to read it, she has some ideas for doing this in a group, which this is a little bit different because it's much more sort of passive than it would be if we were all sitting in a room together. Anyways, okay, continuing on. Protecting the artist child within. Okay, so remember, our artist is a child. Find and protect that child. Remember that the first things that we make are going to be, like the drawing of a child. It's like just the beginning. This is so cool. I was hanging out with Michael Joseph Harris, who's the composer of the song that I played at the beginning. I stayed over at his house a couple nights a few weeks ago when I did some gigs in Baltimore. And one of the things I was talking about teaching. And he said, oh, yeah, he said that he doesn't really enjoy teaching that much and tries not to. And one of the things he said is like, it's so hard because he wants everybody to be making progress and doing the things that he suggests. He's like, I know what they should be doing. And it's like, well, why didn't you do this thing? I saw you last lesson and you didn't do it. And it's like, you would get better if you just do the thing that I tell you, and he's just kind of being summarizing and candid as well, and like, then when the student does do the thing that he suggests, then there's improvement and growth and how it's challenging there. And one of the things that I've been reminded of and want to share with everybody is a thing that he said is that, advice that he likes to give and that he believes in is that we have to allow ourselves to suck. It's like, you're just going to suck. So if it's like learning and playing Django Reinhardt Gypsy Jazz style guitar from Michael Joseph Harris and the way that he plays, his advice to the people he's working with or whatever, or the people that come to this jam session, and he said, because he leads jam sessions in Baltimore as a community building event, and it's cool. And he often tries to just kind of pass on, like, don't worry about sucking. Like, that's part of this thing, at the beginning. And that's what this, in the blue, the first paintings, beginning films, are like, look like unedited home movies. First poems would shame a greeting card. It's just, it's okay to suck. Just don't let the censor get in the way and just be creative. And know that what we're doing when we are creative is we're doing the thing that we're supposed to do. Because she told us earlier, a cosmology of our life as an artist, a philosophical, religious idea is that to exist is to be creative, that we're doing the thing we're supposed to be doing. So don't worry about it. And I put crawl first. Let's see. Okay, so also don't try to like create the best thing ever. Go slowly. No high jumping. Mistakes are necessary. Stumbles are necessary. Okay, so all that's good. Let's see. The next blue box here. Remember that in order to recover as an artist, you must be willing to be a bad artist. Okay. Give ourselves permission to be a beginner. Be willing to be a bad artist. So I hope that's inspiring all of you guys. Give yourself grace, as they say. By willing to be a bad artist, you have a chance to be an artist and perhaps over time a good one, right? Well said. Logically well said. Emotionally, subconsciously, that's a whole other thing. Okay, now, positive beliefs. So I'm going to read all these. I'm at least going to read this paragraph and some of this list. So the enemy within. So she calls this the censor. Most of the time when we are blocked in an area of our life is because we feel safer in that way than going somewhere else. Safety. We might not be happy, but at least we know what we are unhappy about. At least what we know what we are, which is unhappy. Okay, much fear of our own creativity is the fear of the unknown. If I am fully creative, what will it mean? What will happen to me and to others, right? So there's this unknowing, there's this risk, I would say, the risk of the unknown. So she said, here's a list of commonly held negative beliefs. I can't be so successful, prolific, creative artist because, here we go. Raise your hand if any of these come up to you. Everyone will hate me. I don't know that specifically, but I certainly feel like they'll criticize what I make. It's not good enough. Number 2, I will hurt my friends and family. I will go crazy. I will abandon my friends and family. I can't spell. I will not make any money and I'll die or I'll be a drain on other people. I'm adding some of my own. I don't have good enough ideas. It will upset my mother and my father. Yeah. I found a letter where my mom told me, I'm sorry for not accepting that you wanted to be a musician. She never gave it to me. After she died, my dad said he found it. And it was an unsent letter, an ungiven letter to me. And she said, I'm sorry for that. I didn't accept you as a musician because the way I was raised to believe or think is that a musician is not a real career. You can't support yourself on that. And so I'm sorry for projecting that on you, essentially, which is interesting to read after her death. Anyways, you get the idea. So it goes on and on. I will die. My lover will leave me. All these things, all these subconscious blocks, negative core beliefs that we have about what happens if we are an artist, right? So it's good to acknowledge those, and maybe those will come out in our morning pages. Who knows? Maybe. But I think this is part of the healing of our creative self. So then she gives negative beliefs and positive alternatives. So these negatively held beliefs about what an artist is. And it's really interesting. The one place that I've ever encountered the most acceptance for musicians, and at the same time, some people who have just really blatantly stated low opinions of musicians, is in New Orleans. And it's pretty interesting. I mean, as far as like renters, well, it's a musician. Musicians are scumbags. This, that, the other thing. Even that was like somebody told me to that year when in COVID, when I was expressing on social media that I was living in this super unsafe living situation. It sucked. It was emotionally unsafe. I wasn't attacked or anything, but it was a bad like group living situation. It felt crazy. I was crazy, but it also felt unsafely crazy. And I didn't have any allies living there. But a friend of mine was like, well, if you're living with a bunch of musicians, of course, they're known to be scumbags. So, of course, you're going to have, people threatening you or being weird. And I wasn't actually living with any musicians, but it's just interesting that that's like a core held belief of some people. I don't have those. For the most part, I think I attribute positive beliefs to musicians, I think. Now, about myself, I don't know. I'm not going to go into the ones of myself that I identify with over here, but it's certainly going to be considering it. Okay, we're nearing the end of the prose here. Okay, so to become unblocked, we must recognize our either or thinking. So she says, I can either be romantically happy or an artist. I can either be financially successful or I can be an artist. It is possible, quite possible, to be both an artist and romantically fulfilled. It's quite possible to be an artist and financially successful. Okay, so we're supposed to believe in ourselves, create positive self-talk, and a positive idea of us as an artist. That seems to me from this chapter to be like kind of the major thing to do. And we'll see the exercises and little projects and stuff. Okay, your ally within, affirmative weapons. So be affirmative. Let's see, what did I say? Group exercise for this week. I started the thing with that, which just like let's all try to be extra affirmative to ourselves and to everybody else, because that helps. The more we practice it, the more it becomes our norm, hopefully. Affirmations help achieve a sense of safety and hope. And let's see. Okay, so getting the negativity out of our subconscious is really helpful, she says. I'll list this too. This is actually a highlight that I had from the first time I read it about a year ago. You will be amazed at the rotten things your subconscious will blurt out. Write them down. These blurts flag your personal negative core beliefs. They hold the key to your freedom in their ugly little claws. Where do your blurts come from? Who do they come from? And I believe that's going to be some of the exercises. So we have creative affirmations. I am a Diana for God's creativity, and my work comes to good. My dreams come from God, and God has the power to accomplish them, and so on. Okay, I need some water. So we're supposed to use our affirmations after our morning pages. Also use any of these creative affirmations listed. Okay, so we're supposed to create our own affirmations and then use them after our morning pages. So that's another thing to write down, to try to do. She has a list of affirmations here, but now we finally get into the tasks. So I have this big blob of yellow, and now are the tasks that we can do. And of these, we are supposed to pick half, I think, right? Because we have exercises and then tasks. Okay. All right. So every morning, so here we go. So this is basically the end of this chapter, everybody. But before I do, I'll read what Richard said. He said, these negative core beliefs being read out loud is kind of painful. It makes me want to turn off the stream and run away because of how close to home they hit. Yeah, man. I hear you, dude. I kind of am wearing the face of a presenter here. It's like my little live stream face. But yeah, I feel that too. I wonder if other people watching feel that resonating as well. Okay. So one task to do is every morning set our clock 1/2 hour early, get up and do the 3 pages longhand. So that's do our morning pages, basically, is the thing that we're going to do. And we are all going to do those every single day. I know we are. We're all going to do them every day. And we're not supposed to reread them. Okay. Let's see. And then she says, this week, please be sure to work with your affirmations of choice and your blurts at the end of each day's morning pages. So do our affirmations and blurts. Convert all the blurts into positive affirmations. Cool. Okay. So another task is to take ourselves on an artist date. We know that already. We talked about this. We will do this every week. A sample artist date is take $5 and go to the local Five and Dime. I guess that would be the Dollar Tree, I believe, is the one where everything is actually $1.25. Otherwise, I don't think we can afford anything anywhere. Buy silly things like gold stickums, whatever. That's an idea, so you don't have to spend any money. You don't even have to go anywhere, but do something. If you can, that sounds like the most fun, but to me. Okay, so now we have some more tasks or exercises. Time travel. List 3 old enemies of your creative self-worth. This is great. I remember doing this, and I'm going to do it again. Be as specific as possible in doing this exercise. Your historic monsters are the building blocks of your core negative beliefs. So it's a writing exercise. And, she told us to do all the exercises kind of stream of consciousness after we read the chapter. So I'm going to do those later today. And I suggest you guys do too, so that the writing exercises are done. And then the other exercises, we pick half of. Okay, another time travel is list 3 old enemies of your creative self-worth. Or maybe these are the ones that we're supposed to do half of. I don't know. Anybody help me out, chat. Because she said earlier in that chapter when she was talking about how to do it, she said do the writing stuff like immediately and immediately after, but then pick half of the list. So maybe it's half of these things. Then if that's the case, then I'm not sure what writing we're supposed to do immediately after. I don't know. But anyway, okay. So another time travel is select and write out 1 horror story from your Monster Hall of Fame. So of the 3 old enemies, write the whole thing, not just about the person, but like what happened. And you do not need to write long or much, but you do jot down whatever details come back to you, the room you were in, the way people looked at you, the way you felt, what your parents said or didn't say. You may find it cathartic to draw or sketch of your old monster or to clip out an image that evokes that incident for you. And so this ties in with our nurture, our support that we got or didn't get, so this is clarifying it. It's very cool. The next one is write a letter to the editor in your defense. Baby Dallas artist, jazz piano Dallas, who dropped out of being a jazz pianist, was okay because blah, 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 blah. It is great fun to write this letter in the voice of your wounded artist child, to whom it may concern. Sister Ann Rita is a jerk and has pig eyes, and I can spell too. Okay, so you can be kind of catty and throw shade and all that kind of stuff. That's fun. Okay, time travel, list 3 old champions. So this is the positive version. 3 people who championed you in your creative self-worth. Every encouraging word counts. Be specific. She describes that more. Another one, time travel, another writing exercise. Select and write out 1 happy piece of encouragement. Write a thank you letter and mail it to yourself or to the long-lost mentor. That's really beautiful. Patrick Bolick, thanks for creating such a positive vibe. Imaginary lives. If you had 5 other lives to lead, what would you do in each of them? That is really fun. That's super fun. I often say that if I hadn't done music, I think creative theater would be my other really spiritually satisfying calling. I wish I would have gone to Cal Arts instead of the university I did go to. That's fun. Okay, moving on. Working with affirmations and blurts, very often injuries and monsters. Let's see. Turn each negative into an affirmative positive. Take your artist for a walk. The 2 of you, a brisk 20-minute walk can dramatically alter your consciousness. And that's it. Those are the exercises. Those are pretty cool. So we're going to do half of those. So you pick half, and of the half that you pick, so there's 10, so you have to do 5, or she suggests you do 5. And of those 5, half of those, 2.5 or 3 or 2 or whatever, should be ones that you feel an attraction to, and the other half should be something you feel kind of repulsed by, ugh, and do it anyways, which is fun. So that'll be cool. And those are things that if you feel like sharing anything about on the forums, that's what I would love to happen. Share, reply, I'll bounce in there, and other people can reply to what you write. Okay, so now we will do check-ins every week. This is the last thing to talk about. If we're running our creative week Sunday to Sunday, we'll do our check-ins Saturday. So for us, we'll do our check-ins Monday. And I'm going to try to hop on the forums and do my little check-in. And what I think there's going to be things that I'm very comfortable sharing publicly on the stream and in the forums. And I think there's going to be things that are just for me or for my private life here and not for the internet. And I suggest you guys feel the same way about it. I'm sure you will. But as I do it, I'm going to try to sort of separate because I'm doing this on the live stream more so than I wouldn't have to if I were just doing this by myself. But as far as the check-in, because I think the check-ins are going to be really cool for us. It's going to be like the one time when we'll sort of converge, I hope, on the forums and sort of write and respond and read. And I hope that happens throughout the week as well. Okay, so what is the check-in? So let's see. We're supposed to remember that the recovery is ours. So we are recovering back to being an artist. What you think is important. So we need to cultivate this positive identity for ourselves. It will become increasingly interesting to you as you progress. You may want to do check-ins in your morning pages notebook, the same notebook that you use for morning pages. You may want to do check-ins. Let's see. It's best to answer by hand. And here are the check-in prompts. So we're supposed to check in and write how many days this week did we do our morning pages? 7 out of 7. We always hope. Okay. And how was the experience of the morning pages? And then we're supposed to write, did we do our artist date this week? Yes, of course we did. And what did we do and how did it feel? And then were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? If so, describe them. So that's cool. That's it. So that's the check-in we'll do. It would be cool. I don't know. Like, I guess what I'll try to do is I'll send the email about I'll send my weekly email out on Monday. I'll try to do it on like Monday morning, schedule for Monday morning. And at the top of that, I'll try to just remind you to go in and post your check-in in the forums. I think that'll be good. Cool. Okay. So welcome to week 1 of the Artist Way. That's cool. And they will not be nearly as long. Let's see. Closing down books. All right, great. So enough of that. Do you feel creative? Well, that is what's going to happen. So creativity is to be cultivated. It is an experience, a mystical experience, she says. Let's see. I'm looking for my other strap here. Oh, I'm going to read Anne's comment here. So Anne said that she found it easy to convert the negativity into positive. With age comes wisdom. Cool, Anne. You seem very positive to me. Trying to clip the backstrap. With age comes difficulty clipping the backstrap. Okay, so now let's talk about music some. Here's something that I want to kind of share and explore. This idea, let's see. Just of exploring and returning to work. And in this case, I'm taking this piece. I'm attracted to Monument de Saint-Jean, which is made up like a short 1-month group class. Okay, so I'm just really enjoying that tune. There's so much to it, and also it's at once so simple and at the same time it constantly has these changes. I'm really attracted to it right now. And one of the things I've been doing, of course, is taking it through 12 keys, and that's lovely and really good, and gets a little boring and stale. The other thing I've been doing really is kind of returning to some of these cinema, Jacques Mornay, and Natalie Bouchek's ideas. And one of the things that I find that in my work I found to be super, super important, which sounds like a obvious thing to return to, is bellowing directions. And so I just want to talk about that. Controlling our bellow, and as we're working on exercises, making sure that we're planning our bellows. And I think at this moment, lo and behold, like what Palmer Hughes put in their books, they're seemingly not very creative at all books. is this idea that we should be changing bellows every 2 measures, essentially. Let's see. I think I'm changing bellows every 4 measures. No, every 2 measures. Close. Open. Oh no, that's 4. Sorry. Close. It's every 4. That's weird. Musical time gets... It's really a... what's the word? Transmutation. That's not the right word. Sublimation. An abstraction. To use numbers and all that sort of thing to describe music. But nevertheless. So out... 3, 4. In. Da, 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 da. I ran out of air. In. When I come in, I have a different problem than I have going out. In fact, most of my problem is coming in. And I'm really interested in this idea of the basses, the sound of the basses, and touching them. And how do I get the same awesome attack on the bass that I get opening? How do I get that closing? It's the attack point on the bass button is different. It's much more, the thing is that I need to be fast, but also much at the surface when I'm closing. Otherwise, it's just kind of mushy. And the reason is the physics of the accordion, like Frederic Deschamps explained to me when I was at his house for those 5 weeks or 4 weeks, that when we open the accordion, we're working against suction. So we have this suction happening, and then like a creme brulee, we can break the top of that. We can open the door, and Jacques Mornay talks about this too, differently, but he talks about the same idea. So, and that's how we get it. Ta, which I've talked about since, on the live stream, the idea of articulations. Oo, ah, ta, da, ta, pa, ka. The plosives of language. We get on the opening and the closing the same thing. It's the beginning of the note on a cushion of air gives us an attack. And on the close, it's harder. It's way harder. The reason is the physics of the accordion. So when we're closing, we have this potential pushing against the springs. So the springs are holding, when I close the bellows like I am now, the springs are holding the keys and buttons. They're holding all those doors closed. And as soon as I press, I have that positive energy going against the buttons and the keys, and so it takes much less force, and also it wants to stay up, so it requires a different dexterity in my close if I want to get that attack point. The word attack point, the term attack point, comes from Michael Bridge, who got it from his teacher, Joe Massarolo of Toronto, and I learned that from the Artist Professional Development Committee. And the attack point is where we hear the attack. Where and when do we hear that attack? And it depends on the length of our press and how we press and how much air is in there. But it's an important thing to listen for, because that's sort of how we feel the pulse of the thing. Okay, so that's a thing that I'm playing around with a lot. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is dynamics and articulations. So I'm returning again, as I'm returning to air and holding there. So my whole process is very much the first order, the first thing that I'm thinking about here as I'm practicing Mon Amant de Saint-Jean in 12 keys is returning to the ideas of Jacques and Natalie, which are having this constant control of air. The air always moves before the doors open. So you have this air and you put the note in the air. You have to have the air first, which means pulling it in the proper way. And then the finger goes down on the bass or the piano key, and we make the note after that. I should change. Okay, Okay. And so I'll practice that in the left hand alone. I'll go through the tune. I'll go through it in the right hand alone. Let's do it in a different key. E, A flat. So in the left hand is pretty obvious. In the right hand, I'll go through a method that I learned from Jack and Natalie, which is to practice your air and your fingers on the air, because it's a combination. You have to have the air controlled in your left arm, and then you have to practice your fingers on the air. And sometime this year, hopefully soon, I'm going to get the accordion yoga class going on. Because what we want to do is we want to have control, but we want to have relaxation in our hands. So control meaning that I want to be able to play on the surface a lot of the time. I know how to play to the bottom of the key bed. I don't need to work on that nearly as much. And in fact, my hand can be a lot more relaxed when I do it. But that doesn't require as much control, and it's an old thing. So what's new is this on the surface, and there's a lot of tension in my hand. So my left arm has this contraction in it. I'm trying to relax the things, my face, my forehead, my jaw, my eyes, my neck, my shoulders, my chest, and my hand to a certain degree. And maybe I'll choose the legato articulation, and they suggest go through their articulations going, what they say, profound, so deep. So there's superficial and profound. So on the top, and then is superficial, and then profound is on the bottom. So profound, and choose an articulation. And they say start with legato. It's the most forgiving. It's the easiest. And that's how I suggest to warm up. Sorry? I'm trying to also play with the dynamics here. So I wanted to talk about all this bellows kind of stuff as a return to my own practice, my own technique practice. Because in that technique, what I've found through Jack and Natalie, in that technique is emotional expression. And that's what I want to be about, is emotional expression. And it also just makes the accordion way better, way easier to play. And so therefore, I can express my ideas a lot better because I can play. I get the sound that is in my head, and I don't have that sensor, you might say, that is like a biofeedback. Like I don't hear the sound I want, so then my brain goes, yeah, stop, it's bad, oh, you're not, and then I get all messed up. Whereas if I'm positively affirming because it's true, because I like what I'm doing, then it all works. So, okay, so just exploring this idea, I just want to layer on dynamic shifts. So I know that I have the air that I'm working on. I know that I'm just working on the right hand. I'm trying to keep relaxation, letting go of tension as part of my approach in the right hand alone. And in the quality of legato is implied the quality of dynamic shifts. So maybe I'll just try to make a shape that comes, it's kind of like it comes up and crescendos, and there's a little denouement. There's my denouement. Let me do that again. We need the denouement there. Very forced, very deliberate and calculated, because it's not in my nervous system yet. And it's not legato either. Right? So I'm trying to come up, and then the last couple notes, really in the last two notes of the phrase, I'm trying to play a lot softer. Let's see. Let me do it again. No. Let's see. I'm losing it. It's going to be the last note here. Not so good. It's okay. And then now I'm starting to lose it. Creatively I'm getting up. Okay, so what I will do is I'll go to a different shape. So let's see. Maybe I'll do more of a tiered dynamic here, just because I'm not positively associating. I'm not staying present because I don't have a concept that's working. And so I'm going to change my concept. So I'm going to do tiered dynamics. So one dynamic for a set of part of a phrase, and then jump to another dynamic, either less or more. So again, kind of clashing against my artistic sensibilities, but absolutely good for what she described as the artistic process, which is experimentation and observation. And for musicians, this all happens in our nervous systems. So our nervous systems are doing this thing that like nobody else can do. Nobody that's walking down the street nearby can grab your accordion and do anything like what you can do. Right? So this is all happening in our nervous systems. It's all highly developed, and it's a struggle. And from that, right, I'm generating this negative self-talk because I'm finding, as I'm demonstrating this to you, I didn't plan this out enough, or I'm coming across my own failures or labeling things that aren't working, and that's okay. But it is sort of impeding me, and my ego is coming into play. And so I'll take those and I'll flip them, like Julia Cameron said, in The Artist Way, and I'll say, well, you're exploring, you're being creative. Don't let the censor is not right. The censor is not true. What is true is this positive exploration, and you just continue on this path of exploration and repetition. A thing that's, I think, unique for the performing arts is repetition. We need to repeat things in order to generate the nervous system to be able to do them spontaneously, to learn the language, to use another metaphor, right? Okay, so in terms of just exploring articulations and dynamics, right? So there are other articulations. There's Lou-Ray as well, and then there's way more than two depths. But we could think of all the way to the bottom. That's me pressing all the way to the bottom, and then pressing on the top, which I'm not sure if I'll be able to do. It's not super legato, especially on those repeated notes. No. And this is where my hand starts to tighten up, and I'm reluctant to do that because I know the way forward is not with a tight hand. The way forward is with a relaxed hand. So I need to do something simpler that I have control of, that I can relax my body in a way that will build the positive skills that I want. So that's a fun thing. So just working on the bellows, 4 out, which is also something I was doing on the swing stuff, which I'm still working on all the swing stuff. So like there, close, open, close, open. Let's see, that should have been close. Close. That note. Okay, not quite warmed up on this. But the idea is just to show you, in this case, it's 2 measures out, 2 measures in for my bellowing. And that's because I have a lot more going on in the right hand, these big chords, and I want it to set me up for being able to improvise, which might use a lot more air. So if I plan for kind of shorter bellows, then I have a lot of margin of change for using a lot more air, and I'm still controlled. Whereas in Mon Amant de Saint-Jean, at this tempo, it's out 4 and in 4 for the most part. But however, once I start putting the melody in there, then I need to adjust because the melody has pickup measures, which are like kind of in the middle of the 4th bar. So it has the pickup, first of all, the anacrusis is the classical term for a pickup bar. Those are the first 2 notes. And now here's the pickup on the close. And then 3, 1. And those happen in the left hand as well. So if they happen, you know, as a pickup here. But then the change is going to be on the chord, right? And that's, working on that will help me so much. It will help me so much. Right? So I'm changing. Let me say it, change again. Open, open, change. Here I have to da dee da dee. I have to change. It's the pickup. So a good exercise on the right hand when I do just the right hand alone is really take it to just right before that 3rd beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So the 3 is where I change only then. Pardon me. And then it depends on where I change all over the place. But those are sort of how I am helping a lot. I'm discovering that, like, in order to have the constant control of the air, it requires me to set the bellows, 2 out, 2 in, and then it cannot be just 2 out, 2 in, because every so often, every 4 bars, there's like a little pickup, or sometimes it's 1 beat, two beats or 1 beat, and so it's just a slight adjustment, which is really important. So I think, like, it's true that our bellowing follows the phrasing, but as much as we can keep it to a regular thing, the better it really is. The more we're suited for creative playing, because it just keeps us sort of centered with the bellows. Cool. Okay. The other articulations. So the articulation exercise that I'm working on is all legato, all profound, which is all the bottom. Lu-re. So it's where there's a little stop as opposed to That's legato. Then you have 2 different kinds of staccato. You have staccato aggressive, and you have staccato aspiré. Oh boy, I have not done these in a while. Oh, not good. And those are the 4 articulations. First articulations of Jacques, the family, the core family, and then from there you do all that stuff again, but on the surface. So that means with your nice cushion of air, and then I'm only pressing the piano key down just a little bit. So if I was to do legato, it's been so long. Okay, censor. You suck. Okay. So how do I turn that around? An exercise in turning around, as Julia Cameron says. So I say, I don't suck. I'm returning to stuff. I'm a beautiful artist. I'm exploring. I'm pushing into territory that I love, that I believe in. and I'm headed in a direction that is good for me, and I just can't do it now. And that's kind of the definition of practicing, right? Is to go into things that you cannot do, to move in ways that you cannot move, to move deliberately in ways that you cannot move by reflex, is a very sort of right brain idea of that. Okay, that's it. We're not going to watch any videos. It's 8 minutes over the hour. That's it. I promise I'm going to try to keep all the future artist ways, of which there are 11 more, just to the first hour. I think that'll be great. I want to keep including playing in these, and of course, consuming wonderful YouTube videos. I found somebody was talking about Maria Kalaniemi, and because I played some of her last live stream, and they hadn't heard of her, and they had just gotten a freebase accordion, and they talked about this particular, and then I shared this particular Maria Kalaniemi piece. So maybe we'll end the stream with that. I did a transcription of it that I can probably share, which will be fun. This is from many years ago. I had a wonderful, a person who was a student of mine for that period of time, or with whom I worked. Let's see. Preview. All right, let me pull up the music. It's called Maria Charms with her accordion, and I believe it's from the Accordion Tribe documentary. So let's see. You don't need to, I guess you could see the video. Yeah, I'll do both. We'll get both going on. Okay. You're welcome, Bertie. You're welcome, Anne. Let's see. Here we'll get the preview with a Stumpa. Or will we? Maybe we will. There we go. There's a Stumpa. There. The first page is like really small for some reason. And then the other pages are much larger. I couldn't tell you why that is. Something about the way I did it. I'm gonna have to do a big weird thing here in a second. Okay, now let me get Chrome going again. So this is a piece composed by Maria Kalaniemi. It's called Estumpas Sankis Laitala. And I messaged her on Facebook about it 12 years ago, and I said, hey, what does this translate to in Finnish? And she said it translates to sitting at your bedside. So here she's talking about a beautiful... Melodia basso harmonikallahan Oh, we can't get subtitles. She's talking about the accordion and her relationship to it. Let's see. Are we seeing it on the stream? No. There we go. Okay. Let's see if we can do this.
Yksittäisiä ääniä ja näin ollen myöskin tämä sointujen soittamismahdollisuus laajentuu sillä lailla, että pystyn käyttämään tätä sointumahdollisuutta laajemmin.
Here's the piece.
Näin.
So beautiful. All right. Hey, Ryan G. Great to have you. And we're about to end, but you'll be able to see the replay. Thanks, everybody. I will see you next week at the same time. Enjoy, and remember, make sure you get to the forums. Get on my email list if you're not on there. There should be, I think, just by joining the website will put you on the email list, and you'll have to join in order to post on the forums. So join the website risingread.com. I'll get the under construction page off soon, but the website is running. So everybody have a great week. Enjoy your artist way. Make lots of art and music. Enjoy yourself.